Welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here. I want to talk with you today about self-care and what it is and what it can be. Self-care is a buzzword right now, and for me, and a lot of the women that I speak with usually talk about like self-care. The first thing that comes to your mind is like getting your hair done or getting your nails done. And while that might totally resonate with you and be something that you really enjoy and having that time and getting pampered, it also might not. And so then if you don't like to get your hair done and you don't like to get your nails done, or like you only get your nail and hair, I don't know how often you get your nails done, but however often you get your hair done, right? That might only be every other month. And so if that is your only time for self-care, then you're probably gonna find yourself burnt out in between those times. And then what do? Self-care could be something that's super simple, that's done every day, but it could also be something where you carve out a larger chunk of time and you get out and go do something. But I want to make a really important point. Inside you, there is a need for adventure. There is a desire for adventure and new things and this sense of exploration that is inherent as a human. It's in you. And so if you are doing for self-care what you've always done, then you're not nurturing your soul the way that you really need to be. And that's really important to know, because when we're doing self-care, you might almost feel over it. Like, I'm not really super excited to do that thing I've always been doing, and so I'm just not gonna do it. But then you're still burnt out, you're still feeling overstimulated, you're still feeling drained. You're not really getting your cup filled the way that it should be because you're missing that sense of exploration within your self-care. I'm not saying that means that you need to go like out and wander the wilderness or anything like that, especially if that's, not your total cup of tea. But what I'm saying is that it's time to adventure a little bit on things that you've never done and trying new things for self-care. Some simple self-care activities that you might already be doing and totally overlooking the fact that they're part of self-care includes face masks, taking a bath, the simple act of lighting a candle, journaling, taking time at the end of your day to mention 3 things, just saying 3 things out loud that you're grateful for. Those are all very simple self-care practices that you might be doing on a regular basis, but not appreciating them as self-care. Some other ones that you might be doing, you might not be doing, or you might be like me and you're like, where the heck do I even start, is taking a break from technology, literally turning off your phone and putting it on the counter, putting it on a break for like an hour and sitting with your thoughts. Sitting with your tasks, and giving your brain a chance to just disconnect from technology and disconnect from being simply connected, and then start to think, now that I don't have my phone, what should I do? And it could be something as simple as just watching a movie and actually watching the movie. Because nowadays, we turn on a movie and we spend that whole entire time scrolling. We're going from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing with our TikToks, with our posts, and that's actually shortening our attention span. So then when it comes time for a longer task or your kids ask you to sit down and play, it could feel like it lasts forever. And that's because where we used to sit down and watch movies that lasted an hour and a half, now we're watching 7-second reels, and so our attention span is just naturally shortening. And so when we put our phone down and actually watch the entirety of a movie or watch the entirety of a show, our attention span is actually re-strengthening to a more tolerable length of time. So even though you're switching off from your phone and you might still be using a screen to watch TV, that is a really good form of self-care because it's giving yourself a chance to disconnect, find joy in whatever it is that you're watching, and it's strengthening your attention span. Something else that's really cool that I actually just started is getting creative. And you might be sitting there saying, no, I'm not a creative person. Like, I don't paint, I don't draw, I'll sit in front of a picture, a blank piece of paper, and I don't even know what to put on it. And girl, I get it. I was there. I said for years, I'm not creative. It wasn't something that I ever enjoyed. I'm not a drawer. I'm not a painter. But I actually decided to just go with that exploration, get some canvases, get some paint, and just look up templates on Pinterest, like super simple canvases you can paint, and just try and copy them. And I actually found so much joy in just painting. I found joy, I found release of stress. I found just this inner excitement getting pulled out. And while I was painting, I was actually able to process different thoughts about what next step I wanted to take in my life, what I actually liked about what was going on. And it was just thinking while I was painting, because it was so rhythmic, that gave me some time to actually sit with my thoughts, but not just be sitting there. I was doing something with my hands. I was kind of thinking through my process. And so even if you're sitting with your thoughts, but you're also doing something else like painting or journaling or watching a movie, that time for yourself is so important. I think another really, really important thing that's often completely overlooked for self-care is learning. Learning something new is the biggest thing that you can do for your brain, and it fulfills that sense of exploration. And then when you're learning something new, you might actually find that you're really interested in this thing that you knew nothing about, that you didn't previously have any interest in, and then you're able to kind of go down this new rabbit hole of where you might want your life to go. Some new ways to learn things is through YouTube, through social media, or even through podcasts. And you can just search randomly on the page and you might find something like, oh, that looks interesting. What's this video about? What's this podcast about? And then as you start to dive in, then you'll see related content, and you could even possibly end up going down a total rabbit hole. But just giving yourself an opportunity to learn something new about something that you might not have even known existed or that you wanted to learn about, that sense of exploration is being fulfilled, and you're just right inside of your home. So again, not wandering through the wilderness, right? I feel like sometimes when we hear the word exploration, we think that we need to be out there wandering, creating a new hiking trail or something, but exploration is just in our thoughts and our interests, and that can be done from anywhere. Another thing that I also want to point out is that self-care is individualized to you. If you're an introvert and you are drained from being with people, you work at a job where you're talking to people all day, you run a business where you're talking to people all day, and that introvert inside of you is almost like screaming, it is okay to have your self-care be alone. If you want to learn something and you want to be alone while you do it, have that alone time. Find a time where you can sit with yourself, where you could go in a room and be alone and just enjoy you as a person. But on the flip side, if you're an extrovert and you find that excitement and that rejuvenation with other people, then go and join a meetup. There's a bunch of meetups with a bunch of different random topics where you could learn something new and you can satisfy that need to be around other people and get energized that way. And another really important self-care practice is exercise. This does not mean go jumping into high interval intense training unless that's something that sounds really fun to you. It could be as simple as listening to music and going for a walk around your neighborhood. It could be as simple as a 7-minute yoga video on YouTube where you're just getting some stretching done, focusing on your muscles. That could be as simple as it is. So it could literally go from a 7-minute YouTube video to high intensity interval training. Either way, getting your body moving, getting your blood flowing, and clearing your brain and your stress hormones, that is going to be so important for self-care. And along the way, if you decide that, you know what, I think I want to level up my exercise, then that's super cool and you can follow that exploration. But I don't want to discount the fact that your body needs to move. Whether you feel like you have the time or whether you don't feel like you have the time, making time for exercise is so important. Whether you really want to or you really don't, getting your blood flowing and lowering your stress levels is the biggest thing for self-care. So those are just some of my self-care techniques and some of my self-care practices that I highly encourage and definitely recommend. And I want you to also understand that when you are practicing any of the self-care things I mentioned or any other new ones, if there's any other that I missed or that you want to add on, leave a comment on this episode here because I would love to learn more and maybe do what you're doing too. And don't forget to find gratitude in your self-care practice. If your self-care practice is simply lighting a candle, then just be present in that moment while you're lighting that candle. If it is taking a bath, be present in that moment while you're taking a bath. If it's watching a movie, be present in that moment. Being present in the moment is the most important part of self-care, and no matter which activity you choose, because so often we're not present in the moment at all. There's a million things coming at us, text messages, kiddos, spouses, bosses, all the people, right? But when you can find the space in your brain to be mindful and in the moment, that's when self-care actually does what it's supposed to do. So I hope that you found some value in this episode, and if you did, please share it with a friend who also needs to hear this, and if you're an extrovert, maybe you guys can do it together. I'm so thankful that you were here, and I'll see you again next time.